using my 20-year-old Auto Club map, we're right here now in La Misión, which is about 63 kilometers south of Ensenada. And we're going to pick up this trail right here where the white bridge is, and we're going to take this dirt road across the mountain range, which will drop us into the Guadalupe Valley. And there we're going to do a little documentary on the Russian immigrants that came here back in the early 30s, late 20s, where a lot of us came from and our families, and kind of go through there and see what's still there that has Russian in it.
Это по-русски язык.
Well, вот мы будем месте, где они жили, и мы будем делать что-то, как объяснить, что они делали там, как они жили, что они делали, как он работал в доме, и как их жизнь был лучше там, вот, как он любил Бога там. Церковь там, собрание, здание есть там, мы будем смотреть это, и все будет хорошо.
If you remember in episode 5, me and Crazy Mick, with it being 110 degrees, came in the back way of Valle de Guadalupe. But this time, George wanted to go there again, and this time do a little bit more in depth of what's there and the whole story behind the Russian migrants that came there in the early 1900s.
Somebody's home over there. Somebody's there at that house. That's Alejandro's house, and with the California license plate, it might be Mike.
I remember the cemetery being like over there.
The cemetery is up here on the left. See, last time we came, this. Who's this guy? Miguel Ortiz. Здорово.
Здорово. Ay, con él.
Hi. Habla español? Habla ruso? Poquito. Как тебя звать?
Pavel.
Павел, как твой фамилия?
Каширский.
Каширский?
Да.
Вы брат Педро Каширский?
Мой отец.
Это твой отец?
Да.
Можно 20 года мы приехали здесь, и надо газолин. Они сказали, ступай видеть Педро Каширский, он будет давать им бутылку вина, и он даст тебе газолин. Poquito.
We ran into a couple of the town locals just hanging out, so George had to go be what he does best, a good socializer. Guadalupe Valley is now considered the Napa Valley of Baja, fully rich with wineries, little petite shops, and restaurants.
4 years, I think.
Yeah.
6 years. 4 or something.
Okay. All right. So that's pretty good. You speak Russian and English like that.
A little bit, not much.
No, it's just the same here. Just like my Spanish is a little bit. I just
You speak pretty good.
my Spanish. Uno más cerveza, uno más burrito.
Oh, muy bien, muy bien.
So Kladvyshi tam?
Who?
Kladvyshi, funeral grounds. Is this way? The cemetery.
Oh, yeah.
It's that way. Patloshka's that way.
Next to stop, turn to the left.
Turn to the left.
There, yeah.
Okay. See how he's got a little bit of the Russian.
Yeah, I could tell his accent. Yeah.
Русский язык у тебя есть. Хорошо. Okay. А как тебя звать? ¿Cómo se llama?
Yo, Reinaldo.
Fernando? А по-русски как сказать?
Нет. Нету по-русски.
Ну, не знаю по-русски. Можно мы все по-русски здесь.
You know, being on an adventure, you always want to talk with the locals. These two guys kept us entertained for like a half hour.
Really? Wow.
They had great stories and even some tips on how to get around Guadalupe. They pointed us to the cemetery just up the street. So we're here at the Russian cemetery here in Guadalupe. George's got relatives in here, and so does my buddy Cobb. But my grandmother was born here, but I didn't find any of my relatives there. But pretty cool. There's probably maybe just a handful of people, you know, of Russian descent who live in this town. They pretty much all moved away in the 50s and 60s. But this is cool. George is loving it. He's reaching out to his past, his ancestors. We then headed over to the Samerin family restaurant, which is also a winery, a cheese shop. But also on the property is a Russian museum that they run. Made out of an original Russian home, the museum hosts a bunch of artifacts on the wall, you know, sewing machines and desks and furniture, things that the Russians actually used in the early 1900s. It's interesting to step back in time. You know, walking through this house made me realize a bunch of things that I take for granted. When most of America was pioneering and settling in the late 1700s and then into the 1800s, this was the early 1900s, where parts of Mexico didn't even have running water. So the Russians had to start from scratch. When the sun would crack in the early dawn, all the way when the sun went down, they were working the fields and producing crops to make a living. There was one moment as I toured the house where it really hit me. Walking out the back door into the courtyard, warm and sunny, and the smell of all kinds of plants and flowers, with the green hills in the background, it was nice. We got a guided tour from one of the workers who actually is from Los Angeles. She was well versed in the Russian culture. We then ventured into their wine shop, where they had fresh cheeses from the local farms. We then sat down and had a Russian traditional lunch, which consisted of their borscht, which is basically a beet vegetable soup with a dollop of sour cream in the middle. It just hit the spot. On the next episode of Baja Diaries, we head down to Gonzaga Bay. You won't want to miss this one as we take a 4-day trip down to Gonzaga, crisscrossing the peninsula. I hope you're enjoying the Baja Diaries, and if you wish to get more in depth on these trips, we have launched a podcast at toliveanddieInCalifornia.com. It's also available on iTunes and Stitcher, and we kind of take you a little bit more in depth on these certain episodes, on the people, the rich history of Baja, and in general, it's stuff that just we can't fit in these episodes on video. So check it out.